Welcome to Talking Giants presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, live from the John Boy Media Warehouse in New Jersey. And we got a lot to get to. I mean, we have 5 guys signed, 5 guys waived. We have an interview with Art Stapleton, and we're just going to give you some, some camp talk. We're going to, we've done the live streams. We're not going to go through all of our notes, but just the things that stuck out, about 5 or 6 things. And we'll obviously talk about Daniel Jones as well, and Aziz Ojulari. Justin, how you feeling after 2 days of Giants training camp?
Bobby Skinner, really fun week, by the way. Still have Friday and Saturday that we will be attending Giants training camp practices. Saturday's going to be back together Saturday. Not sure what exactly that's going to look like. Maybe that's going to be really, really like a walkthrough.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be real practice, but we'll see.
We'll see. We shall see. But it was a really fun week. A lot of fun meet a lot of fun people. And it was really cool to see the Giants actually practice, and it has been a little bit more intense than I initially thought. The competition's been really fun, especially between these wide receivers and DBs. We have been in a constant state of breaking out into sweat because between we're at Giants practice and the John
more here than
the John Boy Media
else.
Warehouse does not have any kind of AC yet, and of course they're going to get it right after we're done with training camp.
Perfect. All right, so we got some we got a lot to talk about. First, this episode was brought to you by some special people. Chris Cahoe, yo, Duff Huffman. That's not a real name, right?
Yes, it is.
Mark Freelick, who's our guy. Thomas Gargulio. And Ryan Schaefer. I think I know a Ryan Schaefer in real life. Justin, who are these people?
Those wonderful people went to patreon.com/talkinggiants. $2 a month plus some other tiers. You get to hang out with us while we record the shows live. You don't want to miss those. We tell secrets about our lives. Bobby Skinner will also send you some stickers and magnets in the mail, and you get some free shirts if you win the raffle twice a month.
Which I'm behind on the raffle. I need to do, so
do it.
Jump in now, and you'll get the jumping in the last one. All right, so we got some talking points from Giants training camp, but I think it's going to start with what showed up the most on day one, and it goes hand in hand with Mike Kafka. Brian Daboll was asked if Mike Kafka is going to call the plays. He says he's calling the plays at practice, but it's still decided on the season. That's been Brian Daboll's answer for OTAs, off-season, our pre-draft presser.
Mike Kafka is calling the plays.
That is coaches keeping things that are secret that aren't actually a secret. Mike Kafka is going to be the offensive coordinator, the real offensive coordinator and play caller, assumedly up in the booth, which I would really hope for. And you see the influence all over the offense. We'll go and we're not going to get too detailed, but the thing that stood out to everybody, was the amount of motion the Giants are using, and specifically with Wan'Dale Robinson and Saquon Barkley. They're shifting guys in and out of the backfield, orbit motion. Doing full shifts, which isn't, Jason Garrett did a little bit of that too, but they're doing a ton of just motion. It's overwhelming. And they were working on red zone in day one, and they were doing it a lot in there, and it led to some good results too.
It was motion not just for the sake of running motion, where you said, Jason Garrett did it too. But it is drastically different. It is tremendously different because I feel like Garrett just put guys in motion just to do it. Whereas,
or just the basic running back out wide, back
which
in.
Every single time a running back would be flanked out wide, you knew that they were, they're just going to motion in. You knew that every single time without fail. And that's so frustrating as Giants fans who every single year and every single summer, it's starting to get like Evan Engram-esque. Every single summer, we're talking about Saquon Barkley used as a receiver. Saquon Barkley used as a receiver. Just never happens. It just never, ever happens. And I don't even count 2018 because he was really like a check down option. Very rarely have we seen Saquon Barkley really utilized as a receiver, but it is going to happen this year. If it doesn't, I will be completely shocked that it's not just Saquon Barkley being, included in that receiving game as well, where he's actually, lining up as a wide receiver, and being motioned out there. Tony just running all around the football field. Wan'Dale Robinson running all around the football field. You mentioned that orbit motion, whereas basically, if you don't know what that is, because I didn't know what it was until Bobby kind of described it. It's basically when it almost looks like a receiver just running around the quarterback, like in front and then going behind or vice versa. So it is a lot of fun. And the main thing that I took from it, Bobby, watching day one, is it felt more like Mike Kafka's offense than Brian Daboll's offense, which usually some coaches are a little stubborn. Kafka's influence is there 100%.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they work together. You did see some of some Daboll stuff today, like the
crosser,
the crosser to Kenny Galladay, the pass that Kenny Galladay dropped. That was a like a Brian Dable influenced play right there, and they had the angle route with the running back, and then like a high low read with Kenny Golladay and Wan'Dale Robinson. So there's obviously it's going to be interesting to see how those two fit together, because right now it's fun, they're working together. Dable's not as hands on, but then you could get to a point where like Doug Peterson at the end with Philly, where it's like he's too free with letting his coaches make decisions. So it'll be interesting to see how that balance goes to game day, but.
We're only 2 days in, so.
Yeah. But Wan'Dale Robinson has been the guy being moved the most in all of that. Day one looked really good. Getting some, he had a handoff today.
He lined up in the backfield as a running back and took a handoff like he was back in Nebraska a couple years ago. So that stuff, think it's going to happen. We'll see if they run more of it in camp, because there's plenty of times where we've seen stuff over the years that, that's interesting that they run it in camp, and then coaches never run it again. But day two, that was interesting to see.
And they drafted this guy 43rd overall. It really seems, and Shep is out right now, so maybe we're getting maybe not the prettiest picture of it, but right now it seems like they have a big role for Wan'Dale Robinson on this team. If remember I was struggling with the over/under on the Wan'Dale catches? Well, now
easy.
I'm saying over. I think we put it at 35.
Oh, even if Shep is ready to go week one, which I still do think he's ready to go week one. I'm still like saying that Wan'Dale Robinson is probably going to get more reps than Sterling Shepard, because I think for that slot role, if Brian Dable envisions Sterling Shepard as a slot wide receiver, I think for that slot role, what they're going to be asking these receivers to do, what Wan'Dale Robinson does, it fits perfectly for this offense. It is a ton. It's a lot of design stuff, which at Kentucky, that's what he got. And in a way, we used it as a critique. There's so much design stuff. Well, that's what Brian Dable wants to use, Wan'Dale Robinson as.
Yeah, and I thought he was best on some deep breaking routes or those corner routes.
Yeah.
But today on Thursday, we also saw the negatives of Wan'Dale Robinson, because they were working on third downs, and on the quick game when facing man coverage, he struggled. He struggled to separate, and that's where he needs to get better at the little nuances and details of route running. Because when he's running those corner routes, you're getting full head of speed, and he's got the ability to cut and get open, even if it's not the best route run. But in the quick game, and where a guy like Sterling Shepard is great, is those little nuances of the route running, and that's something he struggled with at Kentucky, to get separation on those routes that aren't 20-plus yards, but those routes that are in the 5 to 15-yard range. You saw Aaron Robinson make a play on him, which we will talk about in a little bit. So those are the things that Wan'Dale Robinson has to get better at. So we're talking a lot of Wan'Dale. So Wednesday was hype Wan'Dale. Thursday was kind of bring it, okay.
Yeah, a little bit more of a reality check.
This guy's got some stuff to work on.
Yeah. I would say the hierarchy of targets in order, have not written down targets, but just, based off of my brain. Hierarchy of targets has gone Wan'Dale, Tony, Saquon in the receiving game, and then Kenny Golladay 4.
Today, I thought Kenny Golladay got a lot of deep targets, and so let's talk. Yeah, we want to talk about the wide receivers today, so let's get it. Yeah. Kenny Golladay has had some drops. He had the one versus Adoree Jackson in the red zone drills on Wednesday. On Thursday, he had a deep post corner route it was really a beautifully designed play, beautiful throw by Daniel Jones, and he dropped it. And you could say Julian Love popped it out. Regardless, it was in Kenny Galladay's hands, and he didn't keep it together. But I will say, unlike Darius Slayton, who's had drops where it's very discouraging, I'm not super discouraged with Kenny Golladay, because guess what? He's got a track record of catching the ball in some tight and contested situations. So I'm actually My morale on Kenny Golladay has improved these first 2 days, because they're targeting him and they're giving him good quality targets down the field. Like on today on third down, where the field was a little more open, unlike the red zone drills, he was getting targeted down the field. He had the deep crosser. Like, he was getting targeted downfield or occupying space downfield. And I'm more encouraged from Kenny Golladay after these first 2 days than I was before.
Yeah, I mean, you still don't fully know what the role is going to be. I mean, in fact, they're using Tony and Wan'Dale so much.
Tony's been the star. Tony
has been the star. And Tony, like, the expectation is that Tony this year should be more catches, more yards, higher catch rate, everything better, maybe besides touchdowns, than Kenny Golladay. But even after watching how many times they got red zone targets last week, I'm not even sure about Kenny Golladay getting a lot of touchdowns and stuff like that. So I'm really pumped for what Tony's going to do this year, because they are really targeting Tony and Wan'Dale a ton. And that, for me, the role of Kenny Golladay, like you're a little bit more sure of it and you feel good. Yeah, I feel good because he's gotten some good targets, but I thought he would be targeted at least a little bit more.
For me, with Golladay, it's about quality, not quantity.
Right.
You know, and that's where he was used in Detroit.
Yep.
You know, he wasn't the guy leading, like top of the league in catches, but he was, good big yards,
Yep.
Yards per catch, and then obviously the touchdowns.
That's a good way to put it.
Hopefully those come. But Kadarius Toney, like we were talking about before, has been the star. And in reality, the only thing that can hold this guy back is health. It's the only thing that's going to stop Kadarius Toney from being a star. Something, probably his biggest weakness coming out of Florida was contested catches. He's making contested catches, like beautiful contested catches. Like Toney is playing really well. Obviously, and this has been only on third down and red zone day. Imagine when you get a little more space with the guy.
Yeah.
Like Toney hype should be high right now. Like Kadarius Toney, if there's anyone who's like, hey, this guy deserves the hype, through the first couple of days of training camp, and it should stick, it's Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, I mean, he had the play of training camp so far on the first day on Wednesday, where it was over Aaron Robinson. Aaron Robinson had really great coverage. Would you consider that a corner route or more of a fade?
Fade.
It was a fade. So, yeah, fade route to the, back right corner of the end zone. Toney just goes up. Jones puts it in a spot where only Toney can get it. And that was a contested catch.
Yeah.
Flat out a contested catch.
By the way,
Toney's
Jones throwing some good end zone fades, which was we talk about Toney's biggest weakness. That was Jones's biggest weakness last year, was those end zone fades.
I thought there was some that he missed day one too, but I mean, it was better than what we've seen before from Daniel Jones. So.
Yeah, so the wide receiver group has been like the focus that we've put on, because it's been like a 7-on-7. It's just glorified 7-on-7 until these guys put pads on.
Ton of passing.
Like I'm not paying attention to the O-line, D-line really much at all these first couple days.
Yeah.
You mentioned, so we talked about Saquon, the receiving game.
Breida too.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor.
Passes.
By the way, Tyrod Taylor's looked pretty solid, looked pretty damn good too. He had a really nice throw to Colin Johnson. Mm-hmm. He gets to his checkdowns earlier than Daniel Jones, and Breida, man, you see the speed right away. Like there was a swing pass where it's like, so to give you a dynamic of camp, they don't tackle, obviously, especially so when they're not in pads. So a guy will catch a pass, and he'll just run to the end zone, even though he would have been tackled, and the crowd cheers. But it wouldn't have been a touchdown. But this throw to Breida on a swing pass, he catches it. He's got an angle on Micah McFadden, who's pretty fast himself for a linebacker, and just makes it.
Beats him to the
makes him look unbelievable. Like it makes him look slow.
Yeah.
And that Breida speed, man, we knew about it, but when you see it in person and you see it on a play like that, where it's just a swing pass, that's where it's like, okay, this is where this guy can actually make a really dent on the team. You know, you see like what happened in the Saints game with the Bills last year. Yeah,
and why you run all that motion and why you have route concepts that kind of play off of each other is so like when you do want to check down the ball to like a swing, to a running back in the flat, or a little swing pass here and there. Then you have a guy like Matt Breida that can get yards after the catch. You have a guy like Saquon Barkley that can maybe break a tackle or two, and he can get the yards after the catch too. So I'm excited for that element of the game, because you have the stuff that's playing off of each other, maybe trying to push the ball downfield route-wise, concept-wise, but then you have that check down that's right there readily available for you. I mean, that's what I feel like that's how the Chiefs beat the Giants, when they played him. Is Clyde had Edwards-Helaire in the flat and Tyreek Hill obviously in the flat too. But those little swing passes, huge element I felt of at least what Kansas City did. And that's been a huge element of the first 2 days of camp, both in the red zone and then on third downs.
Before we move to some of the corners, we'll just finish with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has looked solid. On day 2, it was a sloppy start, some drops. Jones was, some contested bad throws in the short, but really finished strong where they completed 7 straight passes. So finished strong. On day 1, he looked pretty good. There was the interception to Darnay Holmes, so we're going to talk about Darnay and Aaron Robinson. That was a really bad throw, and that could be a game-changing bad throw too. So I don't want to discount that. But overall, he's looked pretty solid. Nothing. I wish they would count sacks, because I would like to see a little more improv.
Yeah.
But again, it's been third down and red zone, so we don't know the full and 2 days. But I would like to see a little more improvising from Daniel Jones.
Sure.
But he's looked solid. Nothing crazy. Haven't seen that deep bomb yet, but he's looked solid. Nothing. He's looked solid.
Yeah, I don't really have any big Jones takeaways through the first 2 days. There's been nothing besides the bad Darnay interception that's been like, oh, that's kind of bad. So I don't really have any huge takeaways. There's been some miscommunication between him and Wan'Dale where they're trying to run some bubble screens and they're trying to use an outside boundary wide receiver as like a pick. Wan'Dale's either been turning his head too late.
That was just a bad play, by the team.
No, that's happened a few times.
Yeah.
That's happened a few times throughout the first 2 days. Is that him and Wan'Dale haven't been on the same page, but glad they're kind of going through that now versus later. So
before we talk about the defense, today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. Live events are back, which means you can get $20 off tickets at SeatGeek with promo code Giants. If you don't know what SeatGeek is, they're a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super simple. We're going to be going to the Yankees game either Monday or Tuesday next week. Very, very excited for that. Go Yankees! Even though they got kind of just stomped by the Mets.
Yeah, they got Andrew Benintendi. That's not how you say his name.
Benintendi.
Yeah, Benintendi.
Yeah, so Mets fans should be happy. Yankees fans, let's trade for the 3 best players in baseball.
Juan Soto, I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Whether it's football, concerts, basketball, baseball, festivals, or more, SeatGeek puts tickets from all over the web in one place to make buying simple. SeatGeek rates every ticket from 0 to 10 and make sure you're getting a good deal. Green means good, red means bad. Every ticket on SeatGeek is backed by their buyer guarantee, so you can shop for tickets with confidence. Don't worry, we've got the hookup. Use code GIANTS for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code GIANTS. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. All right, let's talk about the DBs. It's kind of funny that we want to talk about Darnay and Aaron Robinson because those, Adoree Jackson has been Adoree Jackson. Like, he's looked solid. Had a dropped interception, which was
ironic.
Yeah. So I've said Darnay Holmes, they've kind of been the best and the worst of themselves a little bit. In zone, Darnay Holmes look good. He had that undercut on that throw to Saquon Barkley in the red zone. He's just been doing a good job. There was some short area stuff where he did well today. There's a one-on-one drill versus Richie James. Richie James on the podcast.
Richie James Darnay Holmes got sauced by Richie James. It's the summer of Richie James, and it's Richie James season.
Yeah. So he had, that clip was obviously pretty bad by Darnay Holmes, but he's looked fairly solid. And then Aaron Robinson has been up and down, but he's been his best in man coverage.
Yes, which that is what we signed up for Aaron Robinson. Darnay Holmes, the critique that I had about him, and I think we talked about this during our Camp Battles pod, is I can't see Darnay Holmes' role as like a playmaker, like making these plays in this Wink Martindale defense that is all about aggression, that's all about in your face. Because a lot of what Darnay Holmes did outside of maybe that Cincinnati game in 2020 was just kind of keeping everything in front of him, wasn't asked to do a ton in Patrick Graham's defense, and I was worried about how that would translate to Wink. But in camp, he has been, I feel like he's been pretty aggressive, whether it is in zone or man. You look over and you're watching these 11v11 practices, and Darnay Holmes is making a play. And those weren't things that you were saying very often throughout his rookie year in 2020. And then, obviously the little bit that he played last year as well. Aaron Robinson has just been a lot of fun because he is the guy that we want him to be this camp. Yeah, he's a lot, he may allow a catch. He's also been targeted a shit ton. There has been no player that has been targeted more, whether it is second or third team. No guy that has been targeted more than Aaron Robinson. That may be something that's being done on purpose. Robinson's been very physical and fun to watch.
Anything from camp before we get to some news?
No, it's been fun to watch. Like I said at the start, I feel like the intensity has been pretty solid for not having shoulder pads on. It has basically been a wide receiver versus DB competition.
Yes. All right, news. The pupless Shep Gates pair, we expected that, talked about it the last week, so we're not going to touch on that. The only surprise was Azeez Ojulari put on the non-football injury list. We talk about it with Art Stapleton a little bit, hamstring injury. That's one where, again, information is so limited, and we don't know how, he could be back tomorrow or he could be back in 2 weeks. We don't know how they're going to play this and how bad the injury is. But
hamstrings are funky, so you got to watch out for them.
He was working out in Atlanta when it happened, but I will say, because it's a hamstring and because it's Azeez Ojulari, this one is a little more. This is more worrisome than Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah,
because Azeez Ojulari is going to be a huge part of this defense. If you don't have Azeez Ojulari starting, well, you got big question marks on the edge depth chart behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for me, just take it easy with the hamstring. You see guys that struggle all the time. They have hamstring injuries over the summer, and then it takes them a really long time if they rush them back. So. If anything, and again, Art Stapleton's going to talk about this, it's exciting to see some of these other guys get reps because the edge room is crowded in a mediocre sense, in my opinion.
Yes.
Where there's a lot of guys that are like, you feel all right about them. But there's a lot of guys that you do feel okay about. Jahad Ward, Ellerson Smith, Quincy Roche, who's kind of stuck at the bottom of the depth chart a little bit as of right now. And then obviously O'Shane Zimenez, who we expect to be cut. But it's who knows?
He might be a surprise not cut. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, Azeez Ojulari,
Take it easy.
He's a huge part of this team. So I hope he's ready to go by the first preseason game. Maybe not playing, but back to practice by the first preseason game.
Absolutely.
That would be a reasonable goal.
Yeah, and also, I mean, from a selfish standpoint of view, I know I just said to take it easy, Azeez Ojulari, and don't rush it. But, we're here for Giants practices for the next, I guess week 1 is almost over, so we're here for the next 2 weeks. And next week is really the last week that's very packed. The third week is kind of open because you have a preseason game that's thrown in there. I selfishly want to see Azeez Ojulari versus Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal, and Kayvon versus Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. So,
all right, other news before we get to the interview with Art Stapleton. It's training camp, so it means guys are getting signed and guys are getting cut. On the cut side, cornerback Maurice Kennedy. Is he going to be the backup corner? Don't think so anymore. Safety Henry Black, who I thought had a chance to make the roster. Linebacker Justin Hilliard, who cares? He was going to be suspended for 2 games, and he's not good. Jabari Ellis, the UDFA out of South Carolina.
Yeah. I think everybody got confused with Justin Ellis because they said, I'm surprised to see Jabari Ellis got cut.
Yeah, we never thought Jabari Ellis would make the team.
Yeah.
And then wide receiver Travis Toivonen, who was a favorite to be a camp favorite who's not actually good.
Right.
But David Sills is here, and he's got number 13, and he is looking strong. But the guys they added, safety Andrew Adams, defensive tackle Nick Williams, wide receiver Marcus Kemp, offensive tackle Kamal Seymour, and linebacker Austin Calitro. The offensive tackle Seymour played in the USFL. I'll be honest, I don't have much on him. Marcus Kemp, he's not going to make the roster. So that's the 3 guys we want to talk about. We'll start with the freaking we're reunited with Andrew Adams. I love reunions between a guy that was on a team and back, and Andrew Adams is that. And we talked about Henry Black, maybe Yusuf Corker being that 4 safety. Right now, my favorite would be Andrew Adams. I want to see Yusuf Corker get into that role and do it, but right now my favorite is Andrew Adams. I mean, we saw him play for the Giants for a while. He's a solid player. The Bucks have the Bucks been pretty good, the last few years? Yeah. He played, 44%, 62%, 23% of the snap share. There was 1 year, 2020, where he didn't play really at all. He's been gone for 4 years, but there's been 3 seasons he's played for the Bucks. He's had 118 tackles, 16 pass deflections, and 6 interceptions. Supposedly, he's a good special teamer. I don't watch special teams, so I don't know.
Don't even talk about it.
But I really do think Andrew Adams has the fast track to be the 4th safety for the Giants and back on the Giants roster. Should have never been cut in 2018, but that's a different story.
No, one of the things that we were talking about with the safety room is just the lack of experience and the fact that there's so many young guys. You're going to have a couple, maybe UDFAs make the roster. Obviously Julian Love, he never has really gotten a huge opportunity to start on a full-time basis before. So Andrew Adams is the veteran in the safety room right now. So I definitely think he has the fast track of being, safety number 3, safety number 4.
Next on this list is Nick Williams, who I actually think has the safest job so far out of this, defensive tackle. He came from the Lions. He started 30 games for the Lions the last year, but he needs to be a rotational guy. But the Giants needed a rotational guy. That's something we talked about, the defensive tackle group. After Dex and Leo, Justin Ellis is going to be a nose tackle. Not a very good one, but at least one who's played a lot of snaps in the NFL. There is really no rotational guy after that. DJ Davidson, if you liked him out of the draft, I didn't like him as much, but if they did, he's still just a nose tackle. After that, it was like, who's going to be? Chris Hinton? Is it going to be him? Jabari Ellis? Who was it going to be? I think it will be Nick Williams. He had in 2019, which is when he made his money, he had 42 tackles, 6 sacks, and 5 tackles for a loss. Really good numbers. We talked with Robert Smith, our Bears guy, and he's like that. Those stats don't reflect reality. Like 4 of the sacks were like almost unblocked.
Okay.
But he was a starter for a very bad team in the Lions the last 2 years. So he needs to come in to be a rotational player. And pass rush, he attacks the shoulder and can push up field halfway decent. In the run game, he's neither good nor horrible. He'll play in like that A to B gap. I think I kind of view him as the first backup to Dex and Leo, more so Dex in that 3-tech position. But again, they needed depth with actual NFL guys, and that's what Nick Williams provides for the Giants.
Yeah, I think Dex and Leo are going to be on the field a ton this year, just the both of them. And I think they're really going to run mostly 2 defense alignment sets, maybe even sometimes 1 defense alignment sets, because they really want to have as many edge rushers as possible on the field. So Nick Williams, if he makes the team, great. I don't know how often he's going to see the field unless one of the main guys does get hurt.
Right. And both those guys have been extremely healthy. And
they've been durable, yeah.
And the last one, Austin Salotro, a linebacker. He's played over a fourth of the snaps in 2018 and 19 for the Seahawks and the Jags. I'd be very surprised if he made the team. He hasn't really played the last 2 years, except for a snap here and there. He's actually been on 9 squads in the 4-year career in the NFL.
Oh, really?
Not always stayed throughout the season, but nine squads. He was with the Bengals last year, so AFC champion. Him and Chris Myrick have that championship pedigree. Chris Myrick got some run with the ones. I mean, don't count out Chris Myrick. This is a Chris Myrick podcast.
Yeah, they're throwing a lot of tight ends, just giving them
the positions they're rotating the most are the worst position. Are the worst. Like you said, edge after Kayvon.
Yeah.
And then tight end. It's like we're just going to throw all these guys out there.
Andre Miller has gotten first team reps.
Kind of like Andre Miller, though. Converted wide receiver from Maine. Check out the UDFA podcast.
He's a Rice and John wannabe.
I like him better than Rice and John.
Or Rice and John is a Andre Miller wannabe. Yeah. It's more like it.
Why don't you read the ad and then we'll get to Art Stapleton?
Yeah. Before we throw it to Art Stapleton, let's talk about Manscaped. Crotch discomfort hurting your game? Don't do that. Fear no more. The kings of crotch comfort, Manscaped, have spent 2 years, a long time, designing the most comfortable boxer briefs out there. Sleek, soft, comfortable, and flexible. I can tell because they sent us it, and I wear them all the time. The brand new Boxers 2.0 from Manscaped, they take your balls to the royal ball throne. The global leaders in below-the-waist grooming have the Lawnmower 4.0. Love that thing. Use it too. Using the trimming so you can wear the Boxers 2.0 for the chillin'. They even trademarked the Jewel pouch, so you know it's serious. I think it's time you invest in your family jewels, so let's get to breathing. Let's get the bulge breathing and get 20% off plus free shipping by using the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. Get 20% off plus free shipping with our code GIANTS at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping. Code GIANTS, manscaped.com. Up your crotch game, because once the Boxers 2.0 touch your sack, you'll never go back.
I have a question for you before we kick it to Art Stapleton. Have you noticed me replying to Pro Football Reference when they ask, can you name this player? And I just respond yes, or they'll put 8 players.
No, I've never noticed that. But you're not naming the player, you just say yes?
Yeah, and I have notifications on for them, and then they have 8 players. Who are these 8 players' faces on our home team? How many can you name? And I just reply all of them. And then it's starting to get where people are replying no, you can't name all of them. And I was like, I don't want to give you the answer and cheat, but they asked if I could name how many. I said all of them.
All of them.
Just the stupid things I do to keep myself entertained on Twitter. Let me make sure we don't have any breaking news before we go to Art Stapleton. I don't think. Yeah, with no breaking news. All right, here's Art Stapleton, our good friend, on the podcast.
All right, we want to welcome on to the show Art Stapleton. Thank you so much for joining us. You are sitting in your famous esteemed, legendary chair, and we are here at Giants Training Camp. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well, Justin, Bobby, and the throne. I get to be here.
I love it.
That chair's traveled to North Carolina with us. It's been part of other live shows, so it's. I'm not saying you have it back until you leave here with it, though, because the chair has a way of just, staying away from you.
Hey, that's fine. You know what? If I could donate to such a great program like you guys, I'll take care of that and do it.
When we talk to 3 people, this is how we talk to 3 people. We use your chair. So that's fantastic.
Well, so we are here. It's cool to have the fans here. We wanted to do this the last 2 years, didn't get to do it.
Yep.
So you guys had all the access to the Joe Judge practices. We Justin saw a little bit of it in New England, but we didn't really know. And I think that's where I want to start off with. What is there any big differences between a Brian Dable and Joe Judge run practice right now?
Well, other than on day 2, we've now been told we can't shoot video, so everybody will be following Talking Giants for video at practices.
Huge.
Part of that happens with all the pre-snap motion stuff, and we're taking videos of it. And I think there's a disconnect between the coaching staff trying to figure out, should we really be putting that stuff out there? The media rules that it is. But as far as a practice goes, They just focused on red zone yesterday. It was just red zone. There were no plays up and down the field, no live 7-on-7 or 11-on-11, down in distance. So that was different. Less physical than a Joe Judge practice, but I think overall it's similar to other things that have been at training camp. It'll be interesting to see as they move along. You notice the only guys on the sideline are the 3 pup guys and Aziz being there for the NFI. In years past, there would be guys pulling back, being on the side, that kind of thing, and that really wasn't the case so far in the first 2 days. If you don't have a red jersey, you're practicing.
You mentioned Aziz, and I want to go there with that. That was obviously a surprise, and he was training with JT Alphabet and Andrew Thomas down in Atlanta, and then you see him on it. And like Bellinger, like the Bellinger thing. It's like, don't freak out. He was working out with Daniel Jones these past couple weeks. But hamstrings are tricky. Is there anything you've heard on Aziz, like maybe a timetable or just like the significance of it?
I don't think, I've been watching him a little bit working on the side with the training staff, and he's out here. It's not like he's, stuck in the gym trying to rehab. So I would imagine give it a week and then maybe see it. I mean, that's not definitive from anyone, but I just get the sense that he felt a little tweak when he got here. They put him through. They were getting ready for the conditioning test, and all the guys have to do the conditioning test and get physicals. And if they don't feel like you're going to pass it, that's how you end up on either the PUP list or NFI. And it's kind of a let's call a spade a spade. It's BS that they declare it a non-football injury list, and the guy's training. He didn't get hurt on a ski slope somewhere, but it's part of the business, and the team is just trying to protect itself, and it's an NFI list. So if somehow Aziz never came back this season, the team would be able to declare, money-wise, they'd be able to get things back, but I think Aziz will be back before too long. I don't think you want to, like you said, if you have a tweak of a hamstring, you're not looking to now push it forward, and then you're dealing with the problem of, boy, now he's out 4 weeks. We, go back to 2014 and Odell's hamstring drama, out until week 5 of the regular season because he not only hurt it, but then got his foot caught in DRC's cleat on the loose shoelace and essentially tore it, so they had to wait another 4 weeks. I don't get that sense. So I think it's actually good in one sense. The only promising to come out of it is I think you're going to see more of Ellerson Smith early on. And I talked to him today after practice about the opportunity. He's kind of a forgotten guy, I think, a little bit in that mix. So I think you've seen a lot of KT, the Thibodeau KT, not Tony, but with Jihad Ward and Thibodeau, but I think you've also seen Ellerson work in for that first team. So it'll be a good opportunity for him going forward.
Yeah, Ellerson Smith seems like a guy that Wink Martindale really likes. He's long, athletic, fast, so I'm excited to see what we can do with him. You mentioned motion as a reason why, hey, maybe the coaching staff, maybe the team is not letting you, record those 11v11 drills in those practices. So that has been the thing that has stood out the most for the first 2 days of practice for me. Now, you've been here all spring and you've seen some stuff happen this spring, but honestly, I feel like I'm not just watching Brian Dable's offense. We saw some Brian Dable a little bit today with Kenny Galladay running crossing routes, but especially in the red zone, the motion that we saw. Yes. I mean, guys just running, orbiting around the quarterback. Wan'Dale Robinson coming in, lining up at running back, actually getting a carry during today's practice. That has been the standout thing so far. So I want to get your thoughts on kind of this new look Giants offense that not only is Brian Dable heavily influenced, but yes, Mike Kafka is having his influence stamped on the offense as well.
Absolutely. You nailed it. I mean, and I asked Dable about that this morning because to me that's what stuck out for the red zone periods yesterday is that, look, we know what the red zone looked like under Tom Coughlin and Kevin Gilbride and even Ben McAdoo. It was spread them out and use your height, basically. And with Jason Garrett, I mean, they struggled so much in the red zone that it never looked like they had much of a plan.
What was their approach?
Right, and I don't even mean to be, slamming Garrett. It's just the way the offense just never developed. But now you see a plan in the red zone using a lot of motion, using a lot of crossing patterns, floods that, you're challenging the defense to stick with your quick guys, and you're running combos. in the spring I saw, several combos with Wan'Dale and Daniel Bellinger motioning out of the backfield. And those are the kind of things that they're trying to set up mismatches. Leonard Williams talked to us just a few minutes ago, and he was asked from his perspective. And at first he laughed and he said, I'm a defensive lineman, so I'm not really paying attention to that, but I can hear the guys behind me
pointing,
calling,
a lot of pointing. Yep.
About what's going on, making sure you're not confusing, because some of it is eye candy. This is not eye candy. They are trying to create mismatches with the guys they have. And you saw that yesterday with Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson, even motioning the backs out of the backfield.
Yes.
You'll see a lot of that. So very interesting. I think it's promising. The one thing that stands out to me is back in the spring, Saquon Barkley said, we used to talk about it off the field, in meetings, we'd see it in the playbook, but then we would get out on the field and we wouldn't use it. And he said the first day of practice, that in the spring, he said we started motioning everywhere. I'm getting the ball out of the backfield in the slot, and you realize and you go, okay, these guys are actually backing up what we're talking about behind the scenes. And that, to me, is the biggest difference so far offensively, is that they're not just talking about it philosophically, they're actually doing it schematically. And that's a really cool thing to see when you see basically the rest of the league taking leaps and bounds by doing it and using that philosophy.
And that's why it was so mesmerizing on Wednesday. Was one, they were in the red zone doing it a ton, but it was the first day. And Brian Dable even mentioned in his presser how he was dialing some of that stuff back in the spring, because it's like, hey, this is year one, not year 4 with the Bills. So it's definitely going to be a big part of what they do. We might have just talked about it, but has there been like another big takeaway that you've had so far in this limited time?
The offense in that situation, I think that's the biggest takeaway. I mean, I think Justin nailed it. The idea that, in the red zone they were using a lot of motion and like I said, a lot of flood techniques, and almost makes it. I don't know where Kenny Golladay is going to fit in that red zone. Last year when Kenny Golladay signed here, it was he's tall, he's great at contested catches, he can be Plaxico 2.0. And that was all people were focused on. I don't know if that's a part of this offense in the end zone, in the red zone anyway. So that's one thing that stuck out. Defensively, I love the fact that they're flipping Kayvon Thibodeau on sides, and he's going against Andrew Thomas and then Evan Neal.
Yeah.
And to me, look, this is what the Giants are. Like, if I'm John Mara and I'm sitting in my office and I'm thinking about the cornerstones of this franchise, yes, there are questions on the quarterback and the running back and where those guys fit. But if I can go into next year and knowing that I have a franchise left tackle in Andrew Thomas, which I think we're all on the same page that we believe he's heading in that direction, if not there already, and Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, if those are your 3 guys that you're building around, all of a sudden, this team has answers at the right places in this league. So that was what I was thinking about.
After the draft, that was one of our talking points on the draft podcast, is the first round took what's been a weakness for the last 4 years and turned it into the strength. Obviously, we still need to see Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau be that guy, but you've turned your tackles into a strength, most likely, and then your edge rushers, if Azeez can continue some growth. Not going to be a superstar, but some growth.
Right. And I think, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing when Azeez is out there with Kayvon and what that looks like and how much flipping they do and how much does that play off of Leonard Williams. I think what's interesting is they've been in nickel for the entire camp so far, is that, having the 3 corners with Darnay Holmes out on the field and having just 2 down defensive linemen in Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. Dexter, I think, is going to play a little bit more nose guard and on the inside and more than what he has been, because I think it plays to his strength and it plays to what this team needs up front. So that's kind of another standout to me, is that going with just 2 defensive linemen here and knowing that you're going to be putting a lot more of your edge guys in personnel, that brings up, Ellerson Smith and, now does he have a role in sub packages, and Jihad Ward and Azeez and Kayvon, Ward can play up and down that line. So he's kind of that guy who Wink used in Baltimore that way, that, he can play on the edge. He could play from the edge and then all down positions. So I like that too. So that was kind of a takeaway. The other funny thing from Wednesday I thought was Dayball celebrating Kadarius Toney's touchdown catch like it was crazy, like it was an offensive play, big time play.
Jones got in there too. Like everybody got in there.
But from Dayball, he talked about this, the idea of being a head coach versus an offensive guy. The next, I think it was 2 plays later, when Darnay made the play and picked off the ball at the end zone at the goal line in front of Saquon. Dayball it almost looked like he forced himself to go into the celebration, almost like realizing, you know what, I'm the head coach. Like, either side of the ball, a good play and a bad play every time as a head coach. You've got to assess the bad, but celebrate the good. So I thought that was also a big part.
We even saw him with the special teams unit today. So he
was coaching somebody up. I made a note. I'm like, oh, Brian Dable coaching up special teams. Did you see that they also ran they ran like very mini sprints at the end of practice today? And I'm like, wow. I thought Joe Judge was the only coach in the NFL that made guys run.
Well, we're going to take a lap. The 3 of us are going to take a lap around MetLife just for old time's sake.
We were talking about that, how it's going to be hot at FanFest, and it's like the one thing nice will be not having to run a lap and just be sweating.
That is true. I wanted to mention the sprints. I thought was an interesting part of practice. I don't know if you guys caught it. When they did 1s, 2s, and 3s in the red zone, they ran like 3 or 4 plays, and then Dable made everybody that was on the field, all 22, line up on the goal line, and they ran those mini sprints. And the purpose of that, at least from afar, and to hear him saying some of the things, was he wanted to run them and then get back in the huddle and run another play and see. I think they were almost testing their mentality a little bit. The idea of, you're running your sprints at the end of practice, and then it's just you relax. And I think Dable a little bit, I'm going to ask him about that a little bit tomorrow, the idea that it was a purpose. It was purposeful. It wasn't just run sprints. It was also, I want to see you guys run. I want to see you expend your energy, but then get back in the huddle and let me see you line up the right way and run another play and see how that panned out.
Offense, defense even started out yesterday's practice, so this was Wednesday's practice. They started off the practice not by warming up, but by simulating a 2-minute drill. And I saw even one of the bald boys he ran up, he pulled like the Dallas Cowboys versus the 49ers.
Yes.
Ran up and put the ball somewhere, but then ran back, placed it somewhere else, so then everybody else had to adjust offense, defense. So it's cool to see that, they're practicing stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's always going back to Bobby's question in the beginning, the idea of a Joe Judge practice. I mean, I've seen a Tom Coughlin practice, I've seen a Pat Shurmur practice, I've seen Joe Judge. Now it's down to Brian Daboll. There are a lot of similarities. Finding out the why behind why they do some of this stuff. Judge was very good at explaining why he did the things he did. You may have disagreed with why he was doing those things, but he did have a purpose behind what he was trying to do. I think Daboll is also purposeful in terms of what he's trying to put together on a day-to-day basis in terms of, red zone was yesterday. Today was a little bit more midfield, and we'll see, what tomorrow brings and then what Saturday brings. And then obviously Monday is their first day in pads, so I'm sure they're going to be doing a little bit more tackling drills as they move along.
Yeah, the only difference is I don't think Brian Dable's going to go into a 5-minute explanation as to why he does things versus Joe Judge. I think that's the only difference there.
Probably not. But you know what? I wouldn't have expected the Chicago speech from Joe post-game either until it actually happened.
Yeah, wins and losses decide how the press conference is taken. At first it was Joe Judge so detailed, everything's for a reason. And then it was, all right.
He's kind of nuts.
Yeah, why is he talking for 2 minutes?
I love
wins and losses just are the decider if press conferences are good or bad.
That is true.
I got something. Do you have something like? I have something that I really want to ask.
Ask about Richie James.
Well, I kind of wanted to. I didn't want to ask specifically about Richie James, but I wanted to work it in there because I'm good at radio. So. Who's a player that you think is it's tough to tell who's standing out so far. We're not even in pads yet. There's been a lot of passing, so wide receivers and corners, we see them go at it, right? But, who's been a player that you think has either stood out or you think you're watching to stand out so far this camp? Spoiler alert, mine is Richie James. So is there anybody that's different for you?
Richie's done pretty well what he's gotten his opportunities. It's one of those things where he's stacked behind guys who you expect to have a major role on this team. You know what I mean? So where does
he got
fit?
some got some reps when I think Wan'Dale went out for a little bit today, and then even they put him out there as a running back, and then they would motion him out there.
Yep.
He was with the first team, so it was cool to see.
Yeah, it's almost good for Richie because he's had those injury issues that maybe it's good to not be pushing it so quickly early and he's hanging around. I'll give you one, and we really haven't talked about him in the inside media circles inside, and Aaron Robinson has quietly just done his job, and he's been the number 2 corner.
They're targeting him a ton.
And they're going after him. And yes, if you saw the Tony play yesterday, Aaron Robinson was in coverage, but it was great coverage. I mean, he's really done a pretty nice job. He's been in coverage on Galladay a couple times in the end zone and has won those battles for contested catches. So Aaron Robinson is probably one of those guys where I know we talked about him a ton in the spring. We all know he can play a pivotal role here. He has to. So he's one of them. I think Jihad Ward has been, you can't miss him. I mean, he's yapping all the time. He seems like he's the emotional leader of this defense. Ellerson Smith told me that, look, you guys are going to see Jihad Ward, and I think you're going to be surprised with how big of a role he plays, even if he's just kind of that guy out there constantly talking, constantly in the middle of things. That's that. I mean, Matt Breida has looked pretty good.
He's fast, man.
Yeah,
we knew he was fast, but when you see him catch a swing and go, it's wow.
Yeah, I think he's looked good. The interior guys, I almost want to reserve judgment until Monday when they get the pads on. Leonard Williams looking like Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania yesterday with the jersey.
Big Cat showed off the mane.
Hey, that's good. So I think we found out the culprit. And when your nickname's Dirtbag, I think it was John Feliciano.
Got to clip that later.
That's what I heard.
I'm clipping every time the word dirtbag is used in a video
remember
this year.
from the spring. I remember. So I think it was Feliciano, even though Leonard Williams wouldn't reveal it post-practice over here when we asked him about
Investigative journalist.
Yeah.
We found that out.
That's what I heard. It wouldn't have been a stretch to just guess Feliciano.
Yeah.
But nobody was complaining about holding calls yesterday when they were ripping Leonard Williams' jersey.
This question makes my skin crawl anytime anybody asks me it, but we're asking everybody. We'll finish off with it. What's your record prediction for the 2022 New York Giants?
I think when I did it after the schedule came out, I went through. I think I had them they had 6 wins. There's going to be some soft spots in the schedule if they can get their act together. I don't think going to Nashville is an impossible scenario if they can gear up and defend. I think maybe they have an advantage there because the Titans are who they are, but there's still a little bit of mystery for the Giants. But there are some games they're just very, very tough. Playing Dallas on Thanksgiving, you look at that and you say, I don't know. The Eagles are getting the hype for the Eagles is unbelievable right now. I mean, I hearken back to 2011 when they were the dream team. The idea that, the Eagles are going to run away with things, run away with it. Let's see how Jalen Hurts plays first before we think they're going to run away with it. So, look, I think they need to be competitive early on. I think the last thing they want to be is winless when they play Dallas here on Monday night.
Oh.
I hear that is when they're going to do the Ring of Honor that night. So, again, Giants have not had much luck with special halftime circumstances and playing games, but I think they'll be good. I think good and competitive. I just don't know if this roster is ready to compete with the Cowboys and the Eagles in the division. I'm just not sure that they're there yet, and I think it's obvious when Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are both kind of hammering home whenever they get the opportunity that it's year one to kind of reel in the expectations as to where they are. So I think. If they get 7 wins and they approach 8 wins and they're somehow in the mix in December, I think they'll be throwing a parade for Shane and Daboll. And what's interesting is the last 3 coaching eras here came out of the first year with a lot of momentum and a lot of optimism. Yeah. And going into year 2, something happened. And I don't know if they can point their finger on it, because the same thing, it happened to McAdoo, it happened to Shermer, and it happened to Judge. Can they solve what went wrong between year 1 and year 2 and repeat, the fiasco that ended up happening and going back down there? So I don't know what you guys think as far as record-wise this year, but, I think 6 wins isn't a lot to ask. I know that it might not make the fan base happy, but it also depends on how you get to 6 wins.
Yep.
Do you lose a couple heartbreakers because you just got beat by a better roster and you see Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas and Kayvon Thibodeau and Xavier McKinney takes his game to another level. Now you have cornerstones that you can build around. We haven't even mentioned the quarterback or what's going to happen at running back. Those are the guys who are going to get a lot of the attention, but I don't know necessarily if those are the guys that I'm going to measure success in year 1 by for Joe Shane and Brian Dable.
Last question.
Last.
You're the host of the All In with Art Stapleton podcast.
Ooh.
Anything coming up this week or next week that we could get the
Yeah.
We just
Anything
named
coming up?
Justin's favorite Giant of all time.
Wow.
Who once questioned his career choice.
Oh.
Carl Banks.
Wow.
Is this week's.
Huge.
Carl Banks. It actually dropped last night. Previewing. He had a lot of great things to say about Kayvon. What I thought was interesting is, when they had Strahan reach out to Kayvon during the draft process, Carl Banks was also involved in that. It wasn't just Kayvon Thibodeau, it was Aiden Hutchinson as well. So Carl had some good things to say about that. But I appreciate the pop, and obviously you guys, proud of your success. I was there when you were just trying to get going, and regardless of what, there are so many podcasts out there. This is definitely one of my favorites. You guys do a good job. And,
I'll remember our first interaction. I'll throw Danny King under the bus.
Oh, Danny
He
King.
tweeted out the Giants signed Paul Adams as an undrafted free agent. He didn't credit you. So
Did I complain?
you said, yeah, because we did. I mean, we didn't credit you.
Did I? I don't even remember.
So
You know what? I've grown. I've evolved. I'm not worried about credit as much as
Danny King hasn't. He's a bad person.
You know what? I had to feel I had to feel out the way. My biggest thing is I've been on the beat for a while now, and my biggest flaw is that I come to expect that everyone needs to do the job the way I do it, and if you don't, I think that's a flaw that we can have today that she shouldn't have. You guys are going to do your jobs the way differently than what I would expect, and it's all flavors. You know what I mean? It's all about having fun and seeing what you're doing. And like I said, if I could have come with that rainbow wig and clown nose, I would have. For
what flavor would
you
be?
we should have brought you a shirt.
What flavor? What flavor do you associate us with?
you guys.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It could be a spice. It could be
Probably
a chip
spicy
flavor.
because we've threatened
Spicy?
arson on a building behind us.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah,
that
that was
I'll
the
leave
time.
that out.
I've stopped doing that because I know. There's been like 2 stadiums that have caught on fire the last year. You probably are not comfortable with this conversation. And it's like, man, if this happens in MetLife, like I just need to shut down all social
right there.
media or something.
Yeah,
It's right there.
Carl actually had good things to say about good analogy about MetLife. He called it right now it's an Airbnb for the Giants. It's not even their home.
The air conditioning.
Right. Well, yeah, the big air conditioner.
That's fun.
You guys, I don't know. The first thing I'm thinking of is like confetti cake ice cream with a little hot sauce on it. That would be you guys. Yeah, you guys are a little, like you said, a little spicy.
Let's
I
do
like
it.
I like it.
Let's do it.
All right, Art, we appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely do it again sometime. And we'll usually I'll say we'll see us, when we see you, but we're going to see you tomorrow at training camp, so
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah,
We'll
no
yell at you.
problem. Take some videos for me so I can retweet you. And
You know what? You guys couldn't even tweet them if I sent them to you. We'll figure out a way to
we'll
screw
be
each other's
retweeting.
backs.
We'll be retweeting Talking Giants. You guys, hey, look. Until they come and hunt you down in the stands, you'll be.
Which is coming, so we're just waiting on it. Thanks.
surprised they
for
haven't gotten you out of the parking lot yet.
getting on. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks again, Art Stapleton, for coming on the pod. Now what you guys got to do is turn big league action into big winnings with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any game and get $100 in free bets instantly. Plus, all customers can combine multiple bets for a shot and even bigger payout with DraftKings same-game parlays. At DraftKings Sportsbook, you'll be able to bet on your favorite batter to hit a double, on his next plate appearance, your favorite pitcher's next pitch to be a strike, and so much more. You shouldn't have bet on the Yankees Mets, or if you shouldn't have bet on the Yankees for the Mets.
You did.
Yeah, I did my first ever bet. I bet $5 on the Yankees to win, and they lost. So,
Shame.
anyways, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code BOXING.
What? Boxing?
New customers can make any $5 bet and get $100 in free bets instantly. That's promo code BOXING only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Sure.
Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. MLB trademarks used with permission.
I love curveballs in life. Not curveballs in baseball. Can't hit a baseball.
We played blitzball today, and it's fun.
Couldn't hit shit. You really got your hands in tight.
Yeah, well, you were
put in
getting me
contact.
inside, and I was just fouling everything off.
Well, no, it was really great job.
Thank you. I had to be better than you at that because you beat me in Papa Shop in North Carolina.
Yeah, bowling.
Which
I got you on bowling.
Bowling, I don't care. You're a bowler.
Yeah.
It'd be like me beating you in bowling is like if you beat me in basketball. But the things where all things are equal, I want to win those.
Sure.
So I want to redo a Papa Shop at some point.
Okay, we can do that. Dave and Buster's.
I'm a little disappointed that Art Stapleton took his chair with him. I was hoping he would just let us keep it.
No, it's time.
Now the legacy of the chair is dead.
It was time.
You know what you need to do?
Wanted it back
You know what you need to do
privately,
and hopefully Art doesn't see this. When you go to a tailgate, just tweet out in the morning.
I don't have a chair.
Say, I know this sounds crazy, but I forgot my chair, and see if Art comes through. Art
he pulls up. I have my 2 chairs that I already have. I was like, Art, I just wanted you to come here.
We appreciate Art coming on. Go tell him how much you enjoyed his time on Talking Giants. So we'll see you guys on Monday, PPP. So we'll see you on Monday, and we'll have live streams on
live
Friday
streams
and Saturday.
Yes,
we have so much content coming out that we literally don't stop throughout the day. So I'm actually looking forward to Sunday where we can just stop for a second. So.
Yeah.
But this has been really fun. So we appreciate you guys. We'll be back on Monday. Enjoy your weekends. Until then, let's go Big Blue.